Hello and welcome to Cupcakes and Crafts. Today I'll be showing you how easy it is to make these beautiful Beauty and the Beast themed cake pops. You will need some cake crumbs, some buttercream. I'm using half the amount of buttercream to cake crumbs. I've also got a baking tray lined with parchment paper, some yellow candy melts and something to melt them in, some red fondant, a fondant rolling pin, a 5-petal flower cutter. You can also use circle cutters. Some paper lollipop sticks. I just prefer these than the plastic ones. I've got a kebab skewer to frill the edge of a fondant, some scissors, a fondant mat. I've also got a piping bag, some edible pearls and something to stand our cake pops in. The first thing we're going to do is mix together our buttercream and cake crumbs. I'll leave the quantities what I've used down below and just bring the mixture together. The first shape we're going to roll is for the rose buds, so I'm just rolling mine into a tear shape. As you can see, I'm just tapering it in at the top. And for Belle's dress, I'm just simply rolling them into a ball and then placing them onto the baking tray and popping them in the fridge to set for about 15-20 minutes. I always weigh my cake pops at about 30 grams each, and when it came to putting the petals on the rose buds, that didn't work out too well. As you'll see a little later, they were too big for the petal cutter I were using. But for now, the next thing we're going to do is get that yellow candy melts melted just by putting them in the microwave for 30 seconds, giving them a good stir and back in again for another 30 till they're completely melted. And place some of that yellow candy melts on the end of your lollipop stick and push it in about 2/3 of the way. And then just rest them back on your baking tray, and once you've finished all your cake pop balls, it's time to put them back in the fridge for about 10 minutes. Once that seam's set in the fridge, we're then going to dip the complete cake pop all the way up to the seam in that yellow candy melt, gently tap off the excess and then turn it the right way up and smooth it out on the top. And then when you've done them all, it's time to pop them in that cake pop stand and then back into the fridge to chill for about another 15 minutes. I just wanted to show you really quickly, if your cake pops get any cracks in, they are fixable. You just want to pipe a little bit of your candy melts over the crack and then wipe it off clean, and then that should just seal any cracks you've got and make them look as good as new. And there you are, you can hardly see that there's been a crack there. To put that decoration on the dress of Belle, we're going to put the remaining yellow candy melts in a food bag or a piping bag, snip a small amount of the corner off and then just pipe on 4 half hoops all the way around the dress. And if you want to, you can finish off that decoration with a pearl like I did, and you just want to place it at the join of each thrill. If you've got a dry paintbrush and you really wanted to make these look a lot neater, you could always just use that and touch up where you've got a little bit too much of that candy melt, or make your frill lines smoother and neater, symmetrical. And once you've worked your way through all them ball cake pops, that's the yellow ones done. You can either pop them in the fridge or just leave them to set at room temperature. Now it's time to work on the rose cake pops. To make the rose cake pops, we're going to roll out that red fondant as thin as we possibly can, and then using your circle cutters or your petal cutter, we're going to create some petals. So you want to place your fondant on your fondant mat, and using that kebab skewer, we're just going to rub it over the tip of each petal or each of your circles, and that'll just create a kink in his fondant just to make them look a little bit more realistic. And as I mentioned earlier, if I'd have had a smaller cake pop or measured it against my petal cutter or circle cutters, I wouldn't have needed to have applied as much fondant, and I would have got away with just the 5 petals. But I didn't, so I had to apply the 2 extra petals in the centre of the bulb. But not to worry, they still look pretty as they are. So again, starting with that red fondant, after you've rolled it, we're going to cut out as petals, rub a kebab skewer over the top, which will create each petal to frill a little bit and to create a natural kink. And if you're working with circle cutters, it's pretty much just the exact same as what I'm doing in the video now. If you find that your fondant sticks to your workbench a little bit, as you can see, I've put some icing sugar down, which just helps it not stick. And when you've thinned the tip of each petal out, it's time to apply it onto the cake pop. So using a little bit of water on the back, I just put it around the edges of these first 2, just to help them stick on a little bit. and then put a little bit of water on the back of the 5 petals, mainly sticking to the lower half, more to the centre half of the petal. And then with the first petal, you stick just one side down, work your way around all the other petals, and finishing placing your last petal in front of your first. So every petal layers on top of the one following. And just check underneath, make sure that all your cake pop's covered so it doesn't dry out. I decided to have my rosebud a little bit open, but you can have it shut, open, however you like. And there you have them, our rose cake pops. I hope you enjoyed this Beauty and the Beast cake pop theme tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.